started talking about just simple imagery. One of the things came up was the fruit bowl, and that being an entry point of conversation started to become interesting to us. So we both started researching elements of that and talking about the fruit bowl.
And just the idea of fruit in general being this kind of transitory object that
universal
decays and it ages and it moves and it has kind of a life in itself, a real piece of fruit. And part of one of the things that we started to talk about early on too was the idea of like a hypervigilance around the fruit having it become like bigger and more abrasive,
almost
in a way.
Artificial.
Yeah, the colors being kind of overly saturated and pushed a little bit beyond what they should be and stuff.
And then also looking at the life of fruit, we were putting bananas out and watching them decay and change almost before our eyes. I mean, we had so many of them kind of laying around and eating fruit as we were working, cherries and blueberries, and then just the shapes in general were so appealing, so seductive and interesting, and color is a huge part of what we do. So the colors of fruit, watching it age from the first, like a green banana turned brown over 2 or 3 days, just physically became interesting. And
watching the age spots grow and how they kind of
mold
started to blend and stuff. So.
And that too is it's very universal. Everybody can relate to a piece of fruit, and it's not so obscure or strange that you can't figure out what it is. So that was probably the first figurative element that ended up in the work that we became interested in. I mean, in this painting specifically too, it was just simply that. It was the idea of a bowl of fruit, and we painted it and sat back and looked at it, and we were like, wow, this is kind of interesting. It felt like the pinch pot then at that point. We could then enter into this bowl of fruit and start to add our expression to it. But it got to a point where after weeks of looking at it, it became stale, just like fruit becomes stale. And then I don't know how it ended up. We became interested in outer space, and that.
Well, at one point he said, no matter how big a piece of fruit is, it's going to be small in space, and that was just kind of just part of a casual conversation that we had, and that was really great.
So we thought, let's throw this fruit bowl in space.
Spun a little bit, and it spun it in an unnatural way, which
Yeah.
was kind of where the coloration was coming from. It was kind of where the size of the objects were coming from. We didn't sit down and draw pictures of what we wanted first. We just kind of, started to lay things in. And the drawing process for us is not necessarily something that we sit down, drawing, and then paint a painting. It has nothing to do with that. It won't work if we do that. So
Claims it too much, so it's very spontaneous.
we try to approach drawing in the same manner. So it's as we do painting and stuff. So it's a really nice process.
I'm just joking. That piece started very fast in the studio, had little to do with a lot of collaboration in the beginning. It was very in sync, just boom, that face came out, he jumped on it, I jumped on it, and then we left it alone for the majority of while it was in the studio. And that one just felt rock solid down. And we didn't talk about the character so much, but allowed it to live, and didn't change it drastically. It didn't get edited a lot. One of the things that the face itself had just a stare in it that reminded me of the two of us, and then there was something about it that was humorous to me, and so we started to talk about humor in the painting. We started thinking about slapstick and just absurd imagery, and Rob, I came in one day, it didn't have a banana peel on its head. The next day I come in and Rob had painted this huge banana peel draped over the head. And I had opened the studio door and walked in, and I was just, it made me almost tears of laughter. I thought, this is genius. And then the expression on his face was the contrast, the humor. It seemed sort of tragic or intense look. And I had the door open for I was airing out studio, and this kid comes in, young kid, maybe 12, 13, just off the street, and this happens a lot.
We get a lot of passersby.
He comes in and he just walks in, and we have all these paintings in the studio, and I welcome people. I said, come on in, you know. And he comes in, and he was like a skateboard kid, and it reminded me of us when we were kids and stuff. And he walks in, he walks right up to that painting and just belts out laughing. He's like, this is funny, you know. He totally got the whole connection there. And when we have that experience, it's hard to edit that. It's almost like he had something that he saw in it, and he really, that was his favorite painting out of all of them.